It is an issue we have to be more and more conscious of, being cyber secure. Hackers trying to get into your computers and phones at every chance. They're looking for personal information, info they can sell for big bucks. The most recent example of this, the popular game many of us have on our phones, Words with Friends. 218 million accounts were compromised. And this is Cybersecurity Month, appropriate time for this. Our safety expert, David Masson, joins us here to share some tips on how to avoid being a victim. This is another big one. First of all, David, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Nice to see you.
Another big hack. How do these keep happening?
A lot of the time it's because somebody's made a mistake somewhere. The popular word in the cyber world is misconfiguration, but when you hear that, just think mistake. There's always a rush to get a new product, a new app out to market, and often security's been forgotten about, and you only discover what the security issues are when, guess what, somebody hacks in and then tells you that they found what the mistake is.
Is there something that the government should maybe bring in, that these things shouldn't be allowed to come to market until they can be guaranteed that they're secure? Or can you guarantee secure?
No, you can't, unfortunately, guarantee security. You'll notice when any product that you've got, that you're always getting patches and updates, and even some of the biggest products, some of the big name software suppliers, there's always updates to be had. And that's pretty much because they've discovered something they didn't find out in the first place when they were doing it. So this kind of thing's pretty much going to go on all the time.
Okay, what can you do? I mean, I know you should change your password regularly, but can you look at the companies that are involved or check on their record?
It is possible to check reviews of new applications before you put them onto your phone, and I'd pretty much recommend doing that. But a lot of the time, it's kind of suck it and see. So.
Okay. That's a technical term, isn't it?
Well, it's a very non-technical term.
It's very non-technical. Do people have any recourse with this? I mean, the information is being sold on the dark web. Can you put a value on it? How do you? What's it worth? My password and my email. What are those things worth?
Well, the classic answer to that is pretty much it depends. A name and an email address, maybe a couple of bucks, but obviously if you get something like a social insurance number plus a date of birth and an address, basically your entire identity, that can go for quite a lot of money in the dark web.
And there is a market for that. What does it end up being used for? Fraud?
Yeah, there's a big market for this stuff. What it's used for is for applying for credit cards, applying for loans, applying for mortgages. But you, the victim, you only find out about this when the bank rings up and says you've defaulted on your third mortgage. And you say, what third mortgage? That's what you use it for.
And do you have any recourse? Is there anything you can do about this against the company?
Absolutely. There's legislation now. We have legislation here in Canada. There's also legislation binding on Canada that comes from Europe that actually allows us to have some recourse when this kind of thing happens. But that's usually up to like a board of inquiry or an army of lawyers to decide where the negligence lies.
And that takes a few years.
Sure does.
Just moving on to the election, have we seen anything? Have you been following it? And have you seen anything of concern when it comes to the internet and how information is being dispersed?
There's always a chance for the elections to be interfered with by usually foreign states somewhere. In fact, the Government of Canada says that it's very likely that we as Canadians will be subject to influence operations during this election. Very likely is like an 80% chance, so it's probably already happened. It's worthwhile for them to do it because they can use social media to try and influence opinion. It's difficult to actually hack the election itself because it's pen and paper. You can't hack that.
Yeah.
So what you do is you hack the process, you hack the political parties, and you have a go at the voters by trying to persuade them one way or another.
Are there things you can look for when you're seeing stories or hearing things?
Yeah, you can see if there's a lot of emphasis put on something that normally doesn't look like it really requires emphasis, it's because somebody somewhere has decided to big something up because it's to their advantage to do so, or alternatively, it's something that looks like a really important issue, but for some reason, 8.5 million people don't think it's very important.
Yeah.
That's kind of thing.
All right, David, thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on.
You're very welcome.
And for the latest on any sort of cybersecurity breaches and other associated news, as always, check out citynews.ca and City News at 5 and 6.